Dana White has just announced two massive fights for UFC Fight Night Shanghai, starting off with the main event, that is Ming Yang Zhang taking on Johnny Walker. Look, Ming Yang Zhang is currently 3-0 in the UFC. All three of those wins have came by first round stoppage. He is currently on a 12 fight win streak throughout his professional MMA career. Ming Yang Zhang did get to the UFC though from Road to UFC. And whenever you see people get into the UFC from that show, I always am kind of skeptical on how they are going to perform, because a lot of the time their records are padded. Their stats are really heavily padded, and they've just basically been fed cans throughout their career. But Ming Yang Zhang has really looked impressive since coming into the UFC. Obviously, his most notable win is his last win over Anthony Smith, where he absolutely destroyed Anthony Smith in the first round, retired Anthony Smith. He actually put a really bad beating on Anthony Smith, had him busted open with elbows. Anthony Smith was just bleeding everywhere. It was a really dominant performance from Ming Yang Zhang. Now, Ming Yang Zhang is going in there against Johnny Walker, who is ranked number 12 in the UFC's light heavyweight division. Johnny Walker is currently 7-6 in the UFC. He's been around for a very long time. Johnny Walker was once deemed to be the next big thing in the light heavyweight division before he ran into Corey Anderson. I remember a lot of people were gassing this guy up, saying he might be the guy to beat John Jones.
Bruh.
How times have changed since then. But Johnny Walker is currently on a 2-fight losing streak, losing to Magomed Ankalaev and Volkan Oezdemir. Now, both of those losses were by KO, and that is not a good sign for Johnny Walker when he is going in there with a big puncher in Ming Yang Zhang. Now, Johnny Walker, yes, is very athletic. He also hits very hard as well. He has got 16 wins coming by KO out of his professional career. Like I said, very athletic, big puncher. He also can grapple as well. That's a pretty underrated side of Johnny Walker's game. But the big glaring problem with Johnny Walker is his inability to take shots. This guy could be dropped by a gust of wind. A fart could probably knock this guy out cold. And like I said, that's a big problem whenever he's going in there against Ming Yang Zhang, who is a serious big puncher. Now, Ming Yang Zhang also has been knocked out 3 times in his professional MMA career. 2 losses by first round KO, the other loss by second round KO. Now, like I said, he's on a 12 fight win streak. He hasn't lost since 2019, and that loss was a rear naked choke submission loss. And since then, he has just been blasting people out of the water, knocking everybody out that steps in his way. And unfortunately, I don't think Johnny Walker is going to be any different. Now, Johnny Walker is much more proven and much more tested in there against the elite level guys at the UFC light heavyweight division. Both guys do have a win over Anthony Smith. Obviously, Johnny Walker's win was by decision, if I remember correctly, and that came years ago, where Ming Yang Zhang absolutely butchered the guy in the very first round. Now, yes, a completely different Anthony Smith, but still, the way he beat Anthony, I think Ming Yang Zhang would have done the exact same thing to Anthony Smith that Johnny Walker faced all those years ago. I like Johnny Walker, and I don't think you can completely count him out in this fight. Like I said, it's not like Ming Yang Zhang is completely unstoppable. He has lost a good couple of times throughout his career, and he is chinnable as well. But I just don't trust Johnny Walker's ability to take shots anymore. I don't think he's going to be able to out-grapple Ming Yang Zhang. That's just not what Johnny Walker does. I don't think he's going to be able to out-wrestle him. It is going to be a striking matchup where I think Ming Yang Zhang, with the power that he possesses, he will find the chin of Johnny Walker and he will knock him out, in my opinion. I think Ming Yang Zhang is setting up to go for a real title push here. I think the UFC are going to put all their eggs in the basket here with Ming Yang Zhang, having him headline out in China. Despite not really having a big, massive name on his resume. Like, I know he's got Anthony Smith, but that isn't like a groundbreaking win that he has. But I think the highlight reel KO that he will get over Johnny Walker will solidify him as one of the next big things in the UFC's the light heavyweight division. And moving on now to the co-main event, which in my opinion is much more interesting than the main event. Now, in terms of what fight will deliver on the night, probably Ming Yang Zhang versus Johnny Walker will be the more appealing fight for everybody, because someone is getting knocked out in that matchup. But the co-main event is Brian Ortega taking on Aljamain Sterling. Pretty weird that this fight is the co-main in China. Now, nothing is said if this is a 5-round fight night co-main event or a 3-rounder. I would like to know what it is going to be, because I do think that could change my opinion on who I think will win. But Aljamain Sterling, I am the head of the Aljamain Sterling fan club. I was one of the only people when this guy was bantamweight champion saying that he was the GOAT until Murad done what he done. But Aljamain Sterling has since moved up to featherweight. He is currently 1-1 in that division. He absolutely ragdolled Calvin Kattar in his fight at UFC 300. After that, he did lose a very close fight to the number one contender, and in my opinion, the best featherweight right now in Mo Sarevnoev. It was a really, really close matchup and a really fun grapplers fight, which I think we will see in this matchup again. Now, Aljamain Sterling is an amazing grappler. He has got 8 wins in his career coming by submission. Now, like I said, he is ranked number 9 in the division. I think he's much better than what that ranking would suggest. Now, Aljamain Sterling is taking on the former featherweight title challenger in Brian Ortega, who is coming off a loss, who isn't known for his activity. Let's be honest, Brian Ortega is not an active fighter. I think he has changed gyms, though. I think he is down alongside Sean Brady and Joe Pyfer down there in Philadelphia, if I remember correctly. Now, Brian Ortega also a really good grappler. He has got 8 wins by submission. Another fact that people need to consider about this matchup is both Aljamain Sterling and Brian Ortega have never been submitted in their professional MMA career before. Like I said, Brian Ortega, he is more accustomed to the featherweight division. There was even talks of this guy moving up to lightweight, so he will be bigger than Aljamain Sterling on the night. But Aljamain Sterling, as we have seen, he's a pretty big featherweight in his own right, and he is strong for the division. Yes, he was really strong at bantamweight, but that strength has seemed to carry up into the UFC's featherweight division. Now, like I said, both guys are dangerous grapplers, but I think a lot of it will come down to who is going to win the striking exchanges. And both guys aren't big punchers. In my opinion, I always thought Brian Ortega did have heat in his hands, but he's only got 3 KOs in his UFC career. And where I think people get that from is from where he brutalized Frankie Edgar, who yes fought at lightweight but was really undersized, and we've seen him even make bantamweight at some point in his career as well. Aljamain Sterling also, who is not known for striking power at all, he also has the same amount of KOs in his professional MMA career as Brian Ortega at 3. Now, Brian Ortega, he is the better technical striker than what Aljamain Sterling is. I just think he's a much better boxer. Now, Aljamain Sterling's striking does kind of just get disregarded as completely dog shit, and in my opinion, it isn't completely dog shit. He doesn't throw any. He's not a big puncher at all. We know what Aljo's game plan is. It is to throw a lot of volume, which is he is very good doing that with his lateral movement, his kicks. He's a very unorthodox striker, not very technical, not very polished either, but he throws a lot of volume to be able to get in and get the takedowns, and that is where he excels. Now, I think the grappling advantage will be to Aljamain Sterling in there. I think he's a much better wrestler than what Brian Ortega is. Now, in terms of, I was just nearly sick, who has the advantage in the jiu-jitsu department out of Brian Ortega and Aljamain Sterling? It is a really close one. For me personally, I think Aljamain Sterling will win the grappling exchanges out of both guys. Now, what makes me concerned about Aljamain Sterling in this matchup is that Aljo does tend to slow down as the fight goes on, and that could be a real problem when he's in there with someone like Brian Ortega, because yes, I do think Aljamain Sterling will have a lot of success grappling with Brian Ortega, but if Aljo tends to fade like he does, I think he could be very compromised to be submitted by someone who is as dangerous as Brian Ortega, or even worse, be tagged up badly on the feet by Brian Ortega. I think Brian Ortega is a pretty underrated boxer, but I am going to be going with Aljamain Sterling to win this fight by decision. I just think Aljamain Sterling is the better grappler, and I think that's what this will come down to. I think Ortega will struggle with Aljamain Sterling's volume and just his unorthodox lateral movement and the way he's able to throw his kicks really well in there. And Aljamain Sterling has been begging for a fight for a very long time now. We've seen him in camp with Murad. We've seen him out training in Vegas with the likes of Gene Silva and stuff like that. So Aljamain Sterling must be in really good shape for him to be crying out for a fight. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to this fight night. This is a great fight night. This is what the UFC should be doing. Quality fights on these crowded arenas. And take the UFC on the road. Go to China, go to fucking Japan, Africa, go everywhere. Make the sport bigger. Just get more eyeballs on it, and this is a good thing. Ming Yang Jiang will get a KO over Johnny Walker, and Aljamain Sterling will have a competitive fight with Brian Ortega. but I think he will get the submission win over Brian Ortega. Let me know in the comments below, who do you think will win these 2 fights? And as always, like, share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff, and I'll see you all again in the next one.